hands here in game 2. SoaR with the first pick this time around. I don't think, I'd be pretty surprised if we saw the Morrigan for the 3rd time today.
I actually wouldn't be that surprised to see a Morrigan run back. I don't think that in both of the games that we've seen Morrigan play today, I don't think that it's necessarily been the Morrigan that's been the issue as much as it just has been these teams falling so far behind to where you can't even try to utilize that potential comeback mechanic that she has built into her kit with her ultimate.
That's true.
It's just, there's only so much you can do even if you transform into the enemy team.
Well, Cabrakan left open and SoaR immediately pick it away. A lot of different places that could go for SoaR Gaming. Final K, probably pretty comfortable on in that support role, or solo lane, and then support for Jigs, jungle for Homie Faye as well. Bacchus taken away from Jigs, and I don't blame Flashpoint. Not only did Jigs play great on it in game 1, but ShadowQ played this god more than any other during Season 3, especially during that fall split, so no surprise whatsoever. Zeus the pick for Incon as well. I like the early Zeus pick. Incon looks like a different player when he gets Zeus or Giannis in particular in his hands.
That's because he turns into a DJ when he gets Zeus.
Is that it?
That's it.
How come he was good on it before the DJ Zeus skin then, Taco?
That's just Incon, because when you're Incon, it's always a dance party.
Decent save. Ra going to be the selection again for Anonster in the mid lane, and Final K probably on that Warrior once more in the solo lane. A lot more early pressure here for Flashpoint. Bacchus, Zeus, Thanatos. They don't want to lose another early fight like they did in game 1.
No, not at all. And I already like this draft a lot more. You have a very standard wombo combo coming through with the Bacchus Zeus. You can never really go wrong with that combination.
Nope.
And then Thanatos, that is standard Mirage right there. That was the guy that he really established his name with in the SMITE community.
Yep.
And it's a god that, while he hasn't necessarily always found success with it, it's certainly comfortability for him. And as far as Flashpoint is concerned, the times that we've seen them have the most success with this roster is whenever they're playing gods that they find comfortable.
Absolutely. A lot of Hunter bans, Artemis, Rom, and Medusa all banned away. So Flashpoint and SoaR are going to pick out a couple, two that we don't see quite as often, though Cupid we're seeing plenty of these days. Hu Yi and Cupid, the 2 selections in that duo lane. Vamana and Odin. So it actually looks like it's going to be Amaterasu in the support role. Vamana this time for Final K. At least that's what I would assume looking at SoaR's draft.
And I also, finishing off the draft for Flashpoint with the Hu Yi Odin, and you're combining Hu Yi Ultimate. The circles are pretty much the go-to right now for Flashpoint.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite spectrum, you've got SoaR, who also have a ton of lockdown potential coming through with this Cabrakan. In case Cabrakan traps anybody inside of that wall, it could spell disaster once you drop a Cupid Cripple Ultimate on top of everybody. And then Jigs, who could potentially look just for the cleanup with the Amaterasu stun out as well.
Well, I love this Odin selection for Aquarius. You look at SoaR, who's getting out of that Odin cage? Nobody. No one has a jump on the side of SoaR. No Phantom picked up here at level 1 either. So SoaR is just kind of holding that L in that Odin cage. And if you could line it up pretty easily with the Zeus ult into the Odin ult, as well as the Hu Yi ult in the Odin ult, Bacchus can basically line up his ult in that Odin ult. Aquarius just needs to be in fights early and caging as much as possible, because Flashpoint has kill potential on literally every member of SoaR once they're in that Odin cage.
But that's the key component here, and what SoaR is most likely trying to bank on the hardest for not picking up the Phantom at the start of the game. They're just trying to keep Aquarius inside of that solo lane as long as possible, so it's really going to be on Fine OK here to ensure that he stays locked down inside of that lane and isn't permitted to rotate early on into team fights, because if Aquarius gets to rotate freely, then yes, that could be incredibly disastrous for SoaR. But if he's trapped inside of that solo lane for the entirety up until the level 12 stage where a Phantom could potentially be picked up, or even worse, SoaR to already have started some kind of a snowball on the other sides of the map, then it doesn't matter how many people Odin traps inside of that ring. We've seen plenty of teams fall down even with a favorable Odin pick on their side.
And no Shell either, so Jigs is going to have a choice to make here, I think, between the Phantom and the Shell, though we could see Final K potentially pick up the other that Jigs does not. Meditation, the selection for the Warrior support player. Right side controlled by SoaR early on here. On the left, Flashpoint, they steal away the red, about to steal away the purple buff as well. But this is a net win for SoaR. They're gonna get some more buffs on that right-hand side and be able to secure their own as well.
I like that decision making by Xeno and Shadow to just commit to the purple buff early on. As a Hu Yi with the easy triple bounce available, it's more than it's just such free farm for you to pick up the enemy team's purple buff, especially when the ADC is left all by himself. And Venium, a smart choice though to just play it as safe as possible underneath this tower line, not really looking to overextend and get caught out by a Bacchus flop.
Xeno and Shadow make their way all the way to the mid lane, pick up those mid Harpies as well as the Oracles here. Vedium has decided to freeze the wave on the left-hand side, partially due to the fact that he thinks Xeno and Shadow probably aren't there at the time, but also partially out of fear, because if he gets belly flopped, even with that dash at this stage, he probably falls for the first blood. But Xeno and Shadow both miss almost the entire wave. Only 2 archers remaining by the time they make their trek back to the duo lane.
That play isn't necessarily awful, though, for Xeno and Shadow to miss out on the majority of that last wave, because they were able to secure the Oracle vision, which means that should Homefe look to try and rotate early on to help out Vedium and catch Xeno or Shadow Q off guard in case they use their jump in to engage onto him, they'll be able to see it coming for the most part, unless Homefe does some really, really long rotation. But if Homefe opts to do the longer rotation, he might not get there in time.
We talked a lot about what Flashpoint's game plan is with their composition, how they're going to try and team fight, and it's all centered around that Odin cage from Aquarius. How about on the other side? What is SoaR looking to do? Is there any character that feels particularly vulnerable to you in this draft?
Probably the most vulnerable character for SoaR right now would actually be Jigs. And I say that because most people don't realize just how squishy this Amaterasu is early on. Sure, she can be great once you start hitting more towards that mid-game stride, but at the start of the game, you're really not that tanky. And you can see he opted for the tank boots to try and compensate for this a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if they look to emphasize a lot more focus onto the Amaterasu, because out of the entire SoaR draft, he's probably the most vulnerable character, because Anister is going to be playing further back. Homefe's on Kabrakan, who with Vanguard is usually just not really an ideal target early on, and then Benny was going to be in the duo lane for the majority of the time from the start. So Jigs is really the setup factor for the side of SoaR early on, and Homefe and Andy are just the follow-up.
And if Incon can do a good job of baiting himself and forcing Jigs to dash into him, I think that's when you'll see Flashpoint turn on the support player. Incon definitely gonna have to be pretty careful with his positioning, because I'm looking at if what Flashpoint has to combat that Kabrakan ultimate. Basically everyone's gonna be A-OK. Mirage could be in a little bit of trouble, but the other 3 members of Flashpoint all have a leap to get up and over that wall. Incon can't really say the same, so I imagine that SoaR are gonna be looking heavily to punish that immobile Zeus that can just do so much damage if left unchecked.
Oh, certainly. I mean, immediately when you see Homefe on a Kabrakan, you just know he's going to be living in that mid lane, trying to kill Incon off cooldown, because you take away a Zeus ultimate from a composition that Flashpoint's running, you could be in trouble.
There's the cage. Homefe has the Aegis. It's going to buy him a second, but just look at how quickly he falls. Incon picks up first blood. Jigs dashes in, trying to make sure that Flashpoint don't get too much off of that pick. Gonna have to be careful though, taking quite a bit of damage, but the Death Scythe just misses. Aquarius jumps underneath that tier 2 tower, but the meditation from Shadow Q is good. Here comes Mirage up into the sky. Final K teleported in as well. Just not enough damage to pick anyone up there. 1 for 0, Flashpoint get that first blood, and what do you know, Taco? It was all centered around the Odin cage.
Hey, I never said that Odin Cage wasn't going to work.
No,
I'm just saying SoaR has potential to fight around it.
Absolutely, just not when Homefe's all alone.
Not when he's by himself. And I also really like that play by Mirage, not opting to dive into the T2 tower immediately. Even though Jigs' cooldown most likely wasn't up by then, it's still just a safer play overall to not trade out early 1v1, especially when your team just found an advantage and was able to clear out the enemy's solo lane side.
Not quite 1,000 gold in the lead for Flashpoint. Aquarius gonna meet everyone from SoaR, and by everyone I just mean Homefe, but he doesn't have damage to compensate, make it feel like everyone's there. Return kill early on here for SoaR, onto the man who made it happen for Flashpoint. Final K picks that up.
It's crazy because it's like he died inside of that cage. Aggro.
That's so weird. If only he had follow-up with the numerous amount of circles that Flashpoint have drafted around him. That's just Homefe making it happen. on the Cabrakan. So comfortable on this god. Really, every jungler needs to be at this stage with how prevalent Cabrakan has been in the meta since Season 4 really debuted the early mark of the Vanguard. It just, I mean, what are we seeing Cabrakan for early on in Season 4? Like, why are so many teams picking him up?
It's just that level 1 fight and engage. And speaking of fight and engage, it looks like Homefei could be falling down again, but he might be able to get out.
Hits 3 with a stun. Mirage up into that hovering death. Homie running for his life. Not going to be able to get away, but a great slow from FineOK. Turns it around. Now Mirage forced to run away from the minions. FineOK, great slow there. Saves the life of his new jungler.
That's the peel and kind of potential you really want to see coming out of FineOK. And Andister actually making a big debut from that jungle, forcing the meditation to come out on the side of Flashpoint. Man, that was an excellently placed raw snipe. He has been feeling himself today with that.
But a better meditation from ShadowQ. Make sure that Mirage stays alive for the time being. Still 1-to-1 in kills just before the 8-minute mark. Flashpoint got the first blood, but has been able to keep the lead that got them right around an even game right now. The good news for SoaR is that Vedium has now alleviated some of this pressure on this left-hand side. Has really been able to start to free farm, been able to grab his own red buff, and really not worry so much about the pressure that Xenotronics is putting onto him.
And this is just another standard Hunter matchup that could really go either way. Huyi doesn't have the CC immunity available to him, like we see so many Hunters that like to do the on her, for instance, into the Cupid because he's got the CC ultimate, but it looks like SoaR have another plan in store.
Gold Fury about right around her half HP, but Vedium, it was all a bait. They're looking for ShadowQ, and he easily cleans up the support player. Vedium on the board with his first kill. Gold Fury didn't heal all the way up, but there's a sustain from Andister. Locked in the cage is Jigs and Vedium. Jigs gonna fall to the hand of Incon, but Homefei is doing a great job on the backside, controlling 4 members of Flashpoint. FineOK there as well. 1 for the new solo laner. 2 for the new solo laner with the stomp down as well. FineOK having an excellent debut to the SPL. SoaR returned 2-to-1. And now the Gold Fury could be looked at, but with Andister a little bit low on mana without the ultimate, SoaR looked like they want to just get back to farming.
SoaR don't really need to go back to the Gold Fury after an engagement like that. They won the team fight, they won the lane pressures, they might as well just continue their farm and try and snowball this as much as possible. And FineOK, there is probably no worse feeling as someone who's trying to escape and is barely out last tick of your health, and then you just get Goomba stomped by Vamana.
You just hear that noise as he grows up. I don't know what he like sounds like now after the remodel, but I just think of that like little baby noise as he's getting back up into that ultimate, and then you just know it's just a matter of time. About to get stomped down.
Speaking of a matter of time, Flashpoint don't have much more time to really utilize their early game advantages to try and ensure that SoaR don't find themselves in a favorable position like they did in game number 1, because if I had to look at these drafts purely from who is favored at like what stage of the game, I would definitely say that SoaR's draft is heavily favored towards that mid to late game stage, despite unless Flashpoint, of course, get off an incredible Odin cage, but placing so much pressure onto Aquarius, again, having to just ensure that his rings are perfect every time, because in that last fight, we actually saw the Odin ring go down a bit early because of the Gold Fury knocking it over. Yeah,
and that allowed Vedium to escape and make sure he was going to be okay. A little bit unfortunate there for the solo laner. Nice double bounce out of Xenotronics, so Vedium going to be able to heal up. Homefei graciously allows him to pick up his own hearts. A little bit surprised to see this Devourer's Gauntlet build onto Cupid, though. We've seen quite a bit of Cupid, like I mentioned, but it's always been with the Transcendence Mirage. Oh, I thought he was out, but Andister says, no way, Jose, with the snipe all the way from the mid-Harpies. Can't lock yourself in position for that long. Speaking of which, Xenotronics locked in position for too long, courtesy of the ultimate from Homefei and Vedium combined to knock down the Hunter for Flashpoint. 2 kills on opposite ends of the map. SoaR starting to get pretty comfortable here in game 2.
And that just relays back to that initial point I made earlier with the Hunter matchup of Cupid versus Huyi. Huyi not having that CC immune ult anytime his beads are down, and Vedium knows it. We can probably expect to see that Cupid ultimate come landing down on top of him every time.
There's the flop in from ShadowQ. Aquarius is here and finds multiple with the ring, but again, the Gold Fury knocks it down. Homefei trying to juke around, can't get out of that damage from Incon. ShadowQ trying to escape, but Vedium make sure he pays for that initiation. Mirage is here, finds the Death Sight and the Goomba Stomp onto Vedium. Aquarius picks up his first kill. 2-1. Flashpoint comes out on top in that engagement.
Very strong counterplay engagement by Flashpoint in a situation that could have definitely gone really against them, considering that Gold Fury. I think it's actually SoaR's paying that guy off right now to be knocking down these Odin rings.
I saw Jigs hand the Gold Fury like 200 gems. I heard the Gold Fury wanted a voice pack, and Jigs just like, can we get Coop in here? We'll get around to it. But anyways, right now, SoaR is still a little bit in the lead, despite the good synergy between Flashpoint's draft. And that's is that intentional from SoaR to continue to pull the Gold Fury and make sure that it's knocking down these Odin cages?
I think it's one of those circumstances where they might be starting to realize it at this point in time.
Yeah.
If they just keep bringing her towards us, they can't lock us down by the Incon ultimate with the Odin ring. And I mean, whether or not it's intentional, it's still incredibly well played to Flashpoint to just continue fighting around that and actually coming out on top in that last trade with the 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Really well played by Mirage. Great synergy between him and Aquarius, where even though he wasn't landing on a target that was in executable range, they still had the Odin Bird Bomb damage falling through onto Vedium, and with his dash being down as a Cupid, that's probably one of the worst positions you could be in, is in the jungle. Not
able to get away from the damage from Mirage. Homie Faye falling early on in that fight, also a big factor for why Flashpoint able to take it pretty convincingly. We saw last time Aquarius finds a great cage that is also broken by the Gold Fury, but Homie Faye is able to control 3 or 4 members of Flashpoint on the back end. That time around, Homie the first to fall, so obviously not able to control anybody from the grave. 7-4 right now. SoaR still in the lead in kills and in gold, right around 2,000 gold in the lead, or excuse me, right underneath 2,000 gold, 1,800 for the blue squad, looking to find an important 3 points here. They got their first points of the season in game 1, but there's a big difference between being tied for 7th place with 3 points with Flashpoint, which is what SoaR looks to do, or just having 1 point. It would really hurt their chances at finding a decent seed moving forward.
And another important aspect too, when we're talking about Homie Faye here, and you're looking at the draft of SoaR, yes, this is a great draft for the mid to late game stage, but majority of the early game damage and potential they do have is coming out from the Kraken.
Jigs, a beautiful flop there from Shadow Q, locks Jigs in the cage. No objective to get you out of this one, buddy. There's the heavens. They're raving for Mirage as he finds the execute. Jigs, a clean pick there from Flashpoint. They did invest a good amount of damage and ultimates to find that kill. SoaR do have the sustain from the Ra in the mid lane, but just nothing they want to take on the map at this stage.
And Anderson, for the first time in a long time, we actually see him not able to pick up anybody with his Ra ultimate, but this could potentially be a Gold Fury. I'm not sure if SoaR are going to want to commit here after Jigs is still dead. And yeah, they're going to go ahead and reset. And that's definitely the smarter play to make. That was one of those circumstances where if they let us get away with it, then sure. But the second that you see 4 people rotating over, it's just better to just let it go.
And Homie Faye is, during that entire time, stealing away the enemy red buff, making Flashpoint make a choice if they were to come in and contest the Gold Fury to have Homie Faye come wrapping around the backside with an excellent angle. Instead, there's the blink in from Homie looking for Incon in the middle lane. Does have both of his relics. The knock up there is good as well. Incon locked in his own cage. There's purification. The cage saves his life. 3 locked in. Xeno finds Jigs. Final case next. See you later, Homie. 3 dead. Flashpoint using that cage from Aquarius beautifully.
And that's exactly what you want to see from Aquarius every time on this Odin. Just the more you trap inside of that cage, the worse that it's going to be for SoaR. And they do have a Phantom available now. Fine, okay. Actually, I don't think he was able to find it in that last engagement, but now with the Phantom available on the side of SoaR, they're certainly going to be looking to bait out these fights a little bit more in their favor, because if they can force out Aquarius' cage, that's a ton of the lockdown potential for the side of Flashpoint just gone. And surviving that Odin ring, that could potentially spell a massive wipe for Flashpoint.
That's been the game plan all along for Flashpoint. Use Aquarius' Odin cage. The 2 fights that SoaR has won because the Gold Fury knocks down the Odin cage. Every fight that Aquarius has been able to use that cage in a jungle scenario or in the lane, it's resulted in some kills basically for Flashpoint, who are now in the lead, not only in kills, but in gold as well, up right around 1,000 gold, really turning it around. And you were talking about how you needed to see Flashpoint start to take the lead with the composition they've drafted, and I think that that's exactly what they're starting to do.
Small gold lead, not really one to boast about or anything like that at this point in time, but that's not really the important aspect of this game. For the composition that Flashpoint are running, it's predominantly based entirely around how many picks they're able to secure in these fights, because really all that they need is even just like 1 or 2 strong picks off the side of SoaR, because taking away any of the members from SoaR significantly impacts SoaR's draft, in that if you kill Homefe, they lose a lot of damage and potential setup for Anister and Vedium. If you kill Fine OK, there goes the front line. Jigs, there goes the front line. And then, of course, killing Vedium himself, I mean, where's your damage going to be coming from?
Portal Demon started up here by Flashpoint, getting pretty low. Fine OK knows this is happening. Gonna try and steal it away. Detonate wasn't able to secure it, and Fine OK is with the 2! The jungler turned solo laner is here, and now Homefe comes out of the portal, stuns Mirage, and Anister snipes him as well. Homie picks it up, Fine OK gets it all started, and able to secure it for SoaR. Fine OK uses that Phantom, gets everyone out of the cage. Incon the next to fall. Aquarius in the middle of everybody. Trying to get away is Flashpoint. But what a play from the new solo laner for SoaR. That was incredible.
Homie just running through that portal and just completely destroying Mirage's life, setting up Anister. That was great.
Aquarius uses the jump right as multiple members of SoaR come through that portal. Does have that blink away, but he's going to have that jump up soon. There it is. Still gets hit by that heart bomb. Vedium still trying to chase it out, but Aquarius has so much CDR and just so much HP, able to jump away, no problem whatsoever. That was a very Kool-Aid Man-esque moment from Homefe. He just comes screaming through the portal, like breaks down the wall. It's perfect.
Oh man, and I mean
finds a stun. Anister with the snipe. Oh yeah. That's what it is, dude.
That was also a perfect engagement by Fine OK as well, recognizing that Aquarius had used his jump in, because even though Aquarius escaped with his life, he still had to expend his blink in order to get away safely. And so with that being eliminated and around the same cooldown as the Phantom on the side of Fine OK, that just means that it'll be a little bit difficult. It'll be much more difficult for him to try and engage this Odin ring.
Aquarius is forced to use the cage defensively. That's a bad look for Flashpoint. And then Andy again with the snipe. He's on fire right now on this Raw. Shadow Q can't jump away thanks to the Fields of Love. Andy picks up the double kill. SoaR with their 11 kills, just looking so clean. And all it takes is Flashpoint's in the lead. They've done what their composition wants to do. They're like, okay, we can start to take these fights. And then a botched secure on the Portal Demon. Fine OK steals it away, and SoaR is just riding that momentum wave.
SoaR is certainly a team that you don't want to give even the slightest bit of momentum to, and especially if I'm Flashpoint and I see Anister at any point in time right now, they have got to be panicking when they don't see the Raw on the map, because these snipes by Andy they're nuts. Honestly, like I don't know how many lines of G Fuel he snorted today, but he's just absolutely insane right now.
Aquarius forced to teleport to the tier 2 tower, just trying to fend it, though it is 1 HP. Basically, anyone who wants to go over there and smack it will earn 1,500 gold for SoaR. Though that is a good look for Flashpoint that they at least keep that up for the time being, gives them at least somewhat of a shelter in case of a Gold Fury fight, which will probably be happening very soon with the Gold Fury respawning in the next 10 seconds. SoaR has reclaimed the lead after a nice fight back from Flashpoint. Still 3 kills up, and again, all centered around how well Anister has been playing on this Raw. But Vedium also is his express purpose has been to make sure Bacchus can't jump away, and it's worked out beautifully so far for SoaR.
And it looks like Vedium could be potentially just soloing this Gold Fury away, and that's the advantage of going Devils on Cupid. And you mentioned it earlier about how we're typically accustomed to seeing the Transcendence on these Cupid picks, but We've seen it happen a couple of times now. Oceans in particular prefers to go the Devourer's Gauntlets onto this Cupid, and it's because of ever since he was re-kitted to where his 3 got changed, and now putting points into his dash actually increases his attack speed as well, which in my personal opinion also favors Cupid to just opt for the Devourer's Gauntlets. And when he's facing off against a Huyi that decided to go for the Transcendence build as well, I think overall that gives him such a better advantage in this matchup, especially when he has a heal in his kit as well.
I would argue the opposite though, with the fact that with that it's in that same change, his 2 no longer consumes the passive stack, so you can use the 2 when your passive is full, get a bigger burst heal, that it kind of opens the door for you to go for Transcendence and really make use of Cupid's fantastic scaling on both Heart Bomb and Fields of Love.
But when you have an attack speed steroid and you're facing off against a Hunter who lacks one in his kit, attack speed steroids is always going to favor the guy with Devourer's Gauntlets and Lifesteal, and that's exactly what Cupid does against Huyi, and that's another reason why it makes the matchup so difficult for a Hunter without CC in his kit.
Certainly works out so far for SoaR. They knock down that tier 2 tower, but there's the blink in from Aquarius. He finds the cage. There's a Huyi on top as well. Anister can't find the stun that time, but Jigs is doing a great job controlling everybody from Flashpoint in the back. Here's the sustain coming out, and there's Vedium's job, making sure no one can jump away. Mirage can't find the execute. FineOK a little bit too far forward, but is able to big baby waddle his way right out of danger. So the rest of SoaR still thinking about engaging, but it's going to take him a minute unless Homie blinks forward, trying to find the stun. Cannot quite find it. But again, this favors SoaR, not only because of the sustain from Anister, but from Vedium as well. People really undervalue that heart heal.
Not to mention that SoaR's composition, their draft doesn't rely as heavily around their ultimates as Flashpoint's does. So with every single ultimate being off the table for both teams, SoaR still has a ton of kill potential onto Flashpoint, but the same can't be said for Flashpoint because everything that they do relies entirely around their wombo combos, and if those aren't available, what are you left with, really?
That's a great point. Homie is on this Cabrakan, one of those characters that can make your team always have kill potential, even without an ultimate. So SoaR able to put that sustain to good use, rotate over and secure that Portal Demon, no problem whatsoever. We saw just how well Homie can utilize that. Flashpoint thinking the same thing, hanging around here.
They want to be sneaky.
I like the idea.
Because if they Odin cage whoever runs through there, that person's probably going to die.
Yeah, 100%, especially with that Phantom down for FineOK, which was key in that last engagement in making sure Anister, who was caged right off the bat, was able to escape with his life. Anister did still need to use both of his relics, but like I mentioned, Jigs around the backside. And that's one of the things that I think can make SoaR be a really, really strong team to go up against in the later stages of the spring split, is that Jigs is just such a different style of Guardian. He really can fill this third backline diver role that most Guardians don't really want to play.
Cheeky little ricochet there, and it looks like Aquarius is trying to get Jigs locked down inside of that ring. This
is a great situation for SoaR as they only found Jigs. Incon on the run, and Andy again with the snipe. 4 kills for Anister. Zeno knocked up, controlled. Homie puts him down for his 4th kill as well. Tell me if you heard this one before. A great snipe from Anister knocks down an enemy player from Flashpoint. Shadow Q very, very low, knocked up and put down by Homie. 5 for the jungler. Aquarius, he's next. 4 dead for Flashpoint. Only Mirage left to stand and watch as SoaR knocked down that tier 2 tower. Fire Giant is next on the docket.
Between the raw heal, the Cupid Hearts, the meditation, and just Amaterasu's passive in general, it's just, there is so much sustain on the side of SoaR. It's pretty insane. Like, there's just, if Flashpoint can't find the owner ring on more than one character, I mean, we saw it was just complete and total devastation.
It was always one of those moments where Aquarius blinks in, cages Jigs, and then all of Flashpoint go, uh-oh, we only caged Jigs. That means we're screwed. And then they just turn and run, but Jigs is able to find it with that movement speed aura, like you mentioned. Just too difficult to get away from SoaR, who really do have a lot of mobility on their side of this roster. I mean, FineOK and Homie, both 2 very quick characters. FineOK, of course, with the dash. Homie with that movement speed steroid. Vedium with the dash. Raw, pretty quick character in his own right. And then with that Amaterasu passive on all 5 members of this team, very difficult for Flashpoint to disengage, especially without a sprint on their side.
My favorite part about all of this is that Anister's speed buff raw again.
I'm telling you, dude, he's having trouble. He's like, yo, guys, I'll play mid, but homie, can I just take speed every once in a while? Like, it's going to make me feel better. Homie's like, yeah, I mean, I guess. Like, I'd rather have it, but this is what it's going to take. I guess I can give you speed.
I mean, if he keeps landing snipes like that, I don't think that homie has too much to complain about.
Very
because between this comp from SoaR, you would not believe, looking at them today, that they have had as much trouble as they have so far this split in finding success and victories.
And like I mentioned, I mean, they have had a lot of tough matchups. They've played the 2 top seeds in North America already. The rest of their schedule is looking pretty favorable. So I think it is feasible that SoaR could really have a bounce back, especially with the fact that their roster seems to be coming together. They're working much better together as a team than they were previously. And FineOK looking pretty solid in the solo lane, getting some stability there. It could really mean that SoaR could really jump up the standings pretty quickly towards the end.
These ricochets are tickling. I didn't even see the health
18.
bars go down.
ShadowQ does have a frenzy. Flashpoint trying to make one last desperate stand on this left side. Phoenix Aquarius blinks in and finds basically air as he found Homie Faye, but who immediately then blinks out. There's the Fields of Love directly onto Incon. Jigs there as well, trying to get him, but Aquarius has been left alone in the backside. Great flop in and Intoxicate gets Aquarius out of danger. Left side Phoenix still stands. This is a great hold so far from Flashpoint. But I don't know how much it's going to matter, Taco. They've got the Fire Giant regen. SoaR also have the regen from Vedium and from Anister. All that hard work, just for naught.
It's just gone. Every single bit of it. There's no way that this Phoenix is left standing by the end of the second engagement.
Homie Faye still has his ult, locks Mirage in, forced up into the hovering death immediately, but can't quite find the kill. Left side Phoenix falls, middle Phoenix next for SoaR. Again, making use of that Solar Blessing from Raw. Aquarius almost has his Odin Cage. It comes up, but there's not enough damage there. No other ultimates. Plus the Phantom's up, and Homie Faye says, I don't care about your ultimate. I'm just going to kill your mid lane. Mirage falls as well. FineOK picks up his 5th kill. SoaR 17-8. They want to get this last Phoenix before they try and end it, though.
This is absolutely crushing onto Flashpoint, and there's just no way to combat it. Their draft was so strong against SoaR, but even with the great fights that they had around that Odin cage, it's just all crumbling at this stage in the game, and they just can't combat the sustain and damage on the side of SoaR.
Can't combat the snipes from Anister either, as he picks up another kill there onto ShadowQ. SoaR with a convincing 2-0 victory, secure not only their first points, but 3 points